All right, let's jump right into this explainer of Peter and Andrew Schiff's incredibly fascinating book, How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. So, this book takes some notoriously complex economic theories and basically boils them down into a really entertaining illustrated allegory. We're talking about an island, a few fish, and the fundamental reasons why your wallet might feel a bit lighter during a recession. So, whether you're a total economics veteran or you're brand new to the whole subject, this structured look at their work is going to give you some truly interesting insights. The authors actually kick things off by challenging us with a pretty profound thought experiment, originally from economist Thomas Woods. Basically, what if all tools just vanished? Imagine waking up tomorrow morning in a world where you have to hunt, plant, and build using absolutely nothing but your bare hands. No tractors, no shovels, no hammers. Well, without tools, even the smartest human beings are instantly reduced to bare bones day-to-day survival. And this thought experiment perfectly sets up the core Austrian economic perspective that the authors champion throughout the book. On one side, you have bare bones survival, living strictly day to day. But on the other side, you have tools and capital. The authors are arguing that it's specifically tools, capital, and innovation that multiply our labor and elevate us from just scraping by to experiencing real prosperity and, actually having some leisure time. Part 1. The Birth of Capital. Let's take a little trip to a fictional island where three men, Abel, Baker, and Charlie, survive by catching just one single fish a day by hand. One fish is literally just enough to keep them alive until the next day. But Abel gets fed up with this daily grind and decides to take a massive risk. He underconsumes. He voluntarily goes hungry for an entire day just so he has the time to weave palm bark into the island's very first piece of capital, a fish net. Now, the big takeaway here is that Abel doesn't want the net just for the sake of having a net, right? He wants it because it makes catching fish so much easier. And according to the book, that is the true fundamental essence of capital. So this one single tool triggers an absolutely dramatic leap in productivity. Using his bare hands, Abel was catching his one fish a day. But with his new net, he instantly doubles that to two. And because he still only needs one fish a day to survive, that second fish becomes the island's first true savings. He has essentially conjured spare capital out of his own self-sacrifice and innovation. Moving right along to part 2, credit and economic expansion. So now, with a surplus of fish piling up, Abel is suddenly a wealthy man by island standards. And naturally, his buddies Baker and Charlie notice this success, and they want in. They want to build their own nets, but they are terrified of going hungry to do it. So Abel is faced with a choice. He actually has 4 distinct options for his newly acquired savings. He can save it, consume it, lend it, or invest it. He realizes that lending his extra fish to Baker and Charlie so they can eat while they build their own nets is a mutually beneficial business loan. He charges them interest to compensate for his risk, and boom, he has effectively expanded the island's total credit. Once Baker and Charlie get their nets built, the island's total production just skyrockets. And that brings us to a massive milestone for the guys: 20 fish a week. By pooling their savings, the 3 men invest in building a giant mega fish catcher that hauls in food automatically. This represents a staggering leap in societal productivity. And for the authors, it proves that when savings are directed towards solid capital investments, everybody's standard of living goes up. Which brings us to part 3, specialization, deflation, and trade. Because the islanders no longer have to spend every waking second of their lives fishing, they gain something incredibly valuable: free time. And this allows them to specialize in entirely new trades. We start seeing hut builders, clothing designers, canoe makers, even a surfing school pops up. To manage all this booming fish wealth, an entrepreneur named Max Goodbank establishes the island's very first bank. He safely stores the fish, meticulously screens borrowers so they don't give out bad loans, and pays interest to depositors. And most importantly, he adjusts those interest rates based entirely on the actual market supply of saved fish and the inherent risk of the loans. It naturally balances the whole economy. As the island becomes more specialized, the authors introduce a concept that definitely pushes back against modern mainstream economics: the idea that deflation is actually a highly positive force. Deflation happens when increased efficiency drives prices down over time. So, for example, as the islanders get better and faster at making canoes, the cost drops. That makes canoes vastly more affordable for everyone, effectively raising the purchasing power of their saved fish. The crucial point the authors are driving home here really challenges the modern idea that consumer spending is the main engine of a healthy economy. Instead, they assert that a dollar saved makes more of a positive economic impact than a dollar spent. Ultimately, production, underconsumption, and the creation of capital are presented as the true, sustainable drivers of economic growth. As they say, you simply can't consume what hasn't been produced first.
All right, part 4. Enter the government.
As the island's population grows and outside threats like the neighboring Bongobians start to emerge, the society inevitably becomes more complex. The islanders decide to form a limited government called the Republic of Estonia. To fund essential services, like a navy and a court system, they all agree to a transparent, direct fish tax. But, human nature being what it is, ambitious politicians soon arrive on the scene. Senator Frankie Deep realizes a very simple political trick. You can easily buy votes by promising the public free stuff. So he promises grand government reconstruction projects. But to avoid the total unpopularity of raising actual fish taxes, he just starts issuing paper fish reserve notes. This lets him bypass the limits of actual tax revenue entirely, creating the illusion of wealth right out of thin air.
And that sets up part 5 perfectly, the fishflation crisis. The government's decision to decouple their spending from actual physical savings sets the stage for a pretty massive crisis. They end up printing far more paper notes than they have actual fish sitting in the bank. So, to prevent an imminent bank run, they secretly hire technicians to glue discarded fish parts together. Yes, literally glued together fish to cover their tracks. These slightly smaller Frankenstein official fish bridge the gap temporarily, but as the government prints more and more notes, the fish keep shrinking, steadily destroying the currency's overall purchasing power. Now, the authors use this allegorical crisis to lay out a very stark ideological contrast neutrally. On one side, we have the modern Keynesian view, which generally suggests that government should spend to prosper and strategically expand the money supply to smooth out economic bumps. On the other side is the Austrian view, which the authors are advocating for, arguing that we should prevent those artificial credit booms entirely because only real underconsumption and genuine physical savings can drive long-term sustainable growth. The direct, unavoidable results of the government's massive monetary expansion on the island is what they call fishflation. Because the official fish are literally shrinking in nutritional value, the islanders have to spend double, sometimes triple the amount of paper notes just to get the exact same amount of food they used to. Prices for absolutely everything skyrocket. Yet the government completely ignores their own artificial credit expansion, and instead they blame the inflation on high employment and a supposedly strong economy. The allegory wraps up by basically holding a giant mirror up to our modern financial system. And it leaves us with this really provocative question to think about. If the paper money sitting in our own wallets right now isn't backed by actual physical savings or production, what is its true value? Are we as a society actually building real capital and genuine wealth, or are we just swimming in a sea of devalued fish? It's a completely fascinating lens through which to view the economy, and it for sure leaves you wanting to explore these mechanics a whole lot further.